Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So if you haven't been keeping up to date with my Wattpad writing advice series, please do check out the playlist for this series, which will be posted in the description box below so that you can get caught up on all episodes. Anyway, currently we're on episode 7, and in today's episode I'm going to be talking about why having a decent, nearly perfect, if you can get it, story description, aka blurb, is so important when it comes to posting your books online. So just to get started, in the previous episode we covered why having a eye-catching, quote-unquote, good book cover is important. Well, aside from the book cover being one of the first things that someone is going to see, especially when it comes to one of these sites like Wattpad, or even when you're in a bookstore or you're browsing through books on Amazon, the first thing that people see is typically going to be your book cover. But aside from that, the second thing that they're going to take notice of or look for is going to be the blurb to find out what your story is about. Now this, just like having a good book cover, can either make or break your book when it comes to getting noticed and getting reads online and all that good stuff. So crafting the perfect story description, aka blurb, I'm going to call it a blurb throughout this video, is a must, and it's also not as easy to do as people assume. When it comes to writing blurbs or creating a story description from your book, personally for me, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of rewrites. And aside from having a kick-ass cover for your book, having an even more kick-ass description for your story is also another way that you're basically marketing and selling your book to gain and catch people's interest and money if you're selling it on Amazon or something like that. So don't take this part lightly when it comes to writing online and creating a new book or editing an old book on or off of Wattpad. Just know at the end of the day, outside of having a decent book cover, having the perfect story description is going to be everything. It's pretty much the final step for a new reader who's just now coming across, or who accidentally or whatever, however they come across your book, they find your book. It's pretty much the final step for that reader to make the determination for whether or not they want to start reading your book or pass it up and not even give it a chance. So now let's jump into a few no-nos from me on what you shouldn't do when creating or trying to come up with a blurb for your story. So one of the first things that you shouldn't do when crafting a blurb for your story is don't have a single sentence or a quote from your book or one of your characters as your story description and nothing else. I see a lot of people do this on Wattpad, especially when it comes to fanfics, and sometimes I get it, sometimes it works, and sometimes for me personally, depending on what the sentence is, sometimes I will click on the book and start reading it. For the most part, I really wouldn't suggest doing something like this. Now, like for example, reading something like when you click on a book from Wattpad after you see the cover, the book cover interests you, so you click on the book, and then for the story description, all you see is one sentence that says, "The day we met was the day I died." And that's it. That's the whole blurb. Sure, it's kind of intriguing, but it honestly isn't enough to get me to click on the read more button or whatever it is to start reading the book. And I'm sure when it comes to some of the publishers, I can't speak for anybody really, but I'm sure when it comes to the big publishers that secretly scout for new content on Wattpad to traditionally publish, it's probably not going to be enough to draw them in either. I mean, not unless the book already has like a shit ton of reads or something like that. Now, don't get me wrong. This formula may work for some people. Having just a sentence or a quote for your story description definitely works for some people. But looking at things from a professional point of view, it's best to have an actual 1 to 2 or 1 to 3 paragraph description for your story. Now, another thing that you shouldn't do is to not have an actual conversation, dialogue between your characters that's also going to be in your book as your story description. Again, like the 1 sentence description, some people can pull this off, like posting like a conversation as the blurb for their book. Some people can pull this off, not many can. Don't try this unless you're coming up with something strong and exciting or funny or interesting or shocking. Please have the dialogue be interesting at least, if you're going to have dialogue as your story description and nothing else. Like, that whole thing is cool, just like the 1 sentence thing if you could pull it off, but personally I wouldn't risk it. Something else that you shouldn't do is have a long ass description that basically reveals everything that's literally going to happen in your book. When it comes to writing and crafting blurbs, they should be, in my opinion, under or right at 200 words, 300 words max. Anything more than that, and you're basically giving away information that you could be telling in a prologue or another chapter of your book. So when it comes to crafting your blurbs, definitely keep in the back of your mind your word count and how long it is. Now, getting back on track, when it comes to your blurb, your story description, your blurb, it is in a place where you should be just rambling off at the mouth about this new world that you created, like think something like a sci-fi or fantasy novel. Nor is it where you should be data dumping a shit ton about your character's life and how hard they had it growing up. The blurb is where you're trying to give off a bite-sized snippet of what your book is going to be about without actually saying what your book is going to be about. Now, I hope that makes sense. If not, I do have an example here from 50 Shades of Grey, of all things. So let's take a look at this description and kind of break it down here. So, if you're looking on the screen, the blurb is as follows. This is for book 1. When literature student Anastasia Steele interviews successful entrepreneur Christian Grey, she finds him very attractive and deeply intimidating. Convinced that their meeting went badly, she tries to put him out of her mind until he turns up at the store where she works part-time and invites her out. Unworldly and innocent, Anna is shocked to find she wants this man, and when he warns her to keep her distance, it only makes her want him more. But Grey is tormented by inner demons and consumed by the need to control. As they embark on a passionate love affair, Anna discovers more about her own desires, as well as the dark secrets Grey keeps hidden away from public view. Going off that blurb, you can obviously tell that Anna is a student of some sort and Christian is a businessman. They're both grown-ass adults, blah, 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 blah. You can also tell that they're gonna hook up at some point in the story, hence the words love affair, and maybe even fall in love and live happily ever after. But the main thing that you need to take away from this is, do you see how E.L. James didn't give away every little detail about each character or the overall plot of the book or what the book is really about, aka spoiler alert, BDSM? She didn't mention anything about whips and chains and dominance and submissives and all of that in the description, when she very well easily could have, and that right there could have turned some people away at the beginning. So, it's all in the wording. Had she done so and mentioned something about BDSM, which is basically, she would have just revealed the giant spoiler that plays the main role throughout all 3 books. thus later, which would in turn ruin the element of surprise that you get in the first book when you find out that Christian, this dark and sexy, hot and troubled, fancy CEO, is actually a freaking dom behind closed doors. So, in short, the best way to write a blurb is to make it exciting and intriguing as possible, but without data dumping and giving away too much important or too much details or spoilers from your story. So the bottom line of all this is that you need to take away from this is sometimes less is more. There's no need to have a super detailed 5-paragraph long description. Just sum up your book in the best way you can without revealing any major spoilers or being over the top, so that even if you happen to not have a quote unquote good book cover, maybe you can't reach a designer or you can't design your own cover, you'll at least gain the reader's attention by having a super strong blurb. And if you want to get a better idea of how a blurb should be written, not to toot my own horn, but I like to think that I'm pretty decent when it comes to writing story descriptions or blurbs. It's actually one of my favorite things to do when it comes to writing and crafting a brand new story. I get really hyped when it comes to writing blurbs. I'm very serious about it. Because like I said, it can literally make or break your story. When someone clicks on your book on Wattpad, 2 of the things that they see at the beginning is 1, your book cover, and 2, your blurb. So it's everything. So if you want to take a look and see how I do my blurb, so you can get a better look at how maybe you should work yours around. I don't know if I'm making sense here, or if you want me to judge your blurb from one of your books, you can send me a message on Wattpad. The link for my profile will be in the description. You can send me a message and tell me to check out your book or whatever, and I'll do my best to give you some feedback. But please don't comment your blurb on this video, because if you type certain things and if it's too long or whatever, it'll get flagged as spam, and I don't have time to go back and undo all that shit. So don't comment on the video with your blurb or whatever. Shoot me a message on Wattpad and I'll try to check it out for you. Anyway, I'm going to try to turn this series, Wattpad Writing Advice series, into a weekly thing. So hopefully I'll see you guys next weekend. If not, then I'll see you when I see you. Don't forget to subscribe for more Wattpad related content from my channel. I'm going to try to narrow things down and try to just do one thing on this channel versus doing gaming and all this extra shit. So if you're here for Wattpad content or chat stories or any of that shit, stay here, subscribe, thumbs up if you found this video helpful. Let me know what else you want to see me go over when it comes to Wattpad or writing online or using these online platforms. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video, and I appreciate your time today.